Brace yourselves, my friends. This is the best card collecting story I've heard all year, and I'm not even exaggerating. Stick around. What's going on, sports card hobby family? It's another day. It's another sports card video. It's NFL game day.
You take the card and put it in the sleeve.
Before I dive in, huge thanks to today's video sponsor, DC Sports 87. When you want to sell cards on eBay, but man, there's a lot of work listing and shipping and pricing and all the stuff you have to do with selling individual cards on eBay, I send a lot of stuff over to DC Sports 87. They take really good care of me. It's very easy, quick payouts over at DC Sports 87, so make sure to check them out. All right, going back last week, I caught a show that was on the 4 Collectors, that's the number 4 Collectors YouTube channel. I've been on this channel before with Pepino Man, Mangini, and those guys. Good guys. A lot of vintage card collectors over on that channel. And they also collect modern stuff as well, too, some of them. They did one of these interview type things, kind of a roundtable type episode. It's about 2 hours long. I'll put a link down in the video description so you can check it out for yourself. I am going to clip about 3.5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, because I can try to tell the story with my own words, but I just feel like just the way that this story was told on this channel, you got to hear it for yourself. And this is coming from a guy, I did not know this person, Southern Collector channel. It's Tony, Southern Collector 14. They were talking about kind of collecting and their fathers, their dads, and how that relates and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and let him tell the story and then we'll react to it.
My dad, what he was a hardworking man that he went in the Air Force out of high school, and that's how he ended up in Middle Tennessee and met this little Southern belle, and that's my mama. And so anyways, my dad was a great man, and he worked really hard, and he took me to all my games. He was at all my, practices. But, just when you look at, as far as collecting, he didn't have a whole lot to do with my collecting, other than allowing me to buy packs. He was great about that. I grew up in a household where we didn't have any money, but we didn't know it, and we were happy. And I remember, my mom had breast cancer when I was in 6th grade, and medical bills just zapped us, and we were getting food out of the pantry at church, and my mom wrapped empty boxes and put them under the Christmas tree one year because we didn't have enough money for Christmas gifts, and she didn't want my friends to make fun of me. So but my dad, it wasn't for a lack of trying. Like, he worked his tail off. So a lot of who I am today is because of my dad. And he started a small cabinet shop when I was in 6th grade, and started in his garage, in our garage. And that's where I learned a skill and a trade. And that's what I do for a living today. I own a cabinet shop and do custom cabinets in Middle Tennessee. And, but as far as, what I talked with Greg, he contracted Lou Gehrig's disease when he was 55 years old. And that's how old I am right now. And I just had my first grandchild and was just born. And so I wish he was there, but Lou Gehrig is the player, that kind of hits home with him because he had Lou Gehrig's disease. And last summer I'd put it off, and I liked reading history books. And I put off reading the Lou Gehrig book, The Luckiest Man. And it was such an interesting read, going through how he got discovered. And he was a high school phenom and was right there in New York and in the Yankees' backyard. But how he was a mama's boy. He was the direct opposite of what Babe Ruth was. But when it got into the part where he contracted the disease, man, there was times where I would be having tears in my eyes because it's such a horrible disease. And Gehrig started having the pains in his legs, and he rounded first base and would just stumble and fall in the dirt and couldn't, you've seen the pictures of him, like the Tarzan picture where he tried out for the role of Tarzan in Hollywood, and he's got the loincloth, and you can see this dude is a mountain of a man. And so to go from being that, it's kind of like, Samson in the Bible when they cut his hair, and all of a sudden his strength is zapped. And that's what happened with Gehrig. And I saw that happen with my dad. And so he just whittled away. And so, as far as my collection, I don't have it yet, but I have one Lou Gehrig card that I showed on Greg's interview, and I just picked up the second. I have the yellow 34 Gaudy. I just picked up the green, and I want to try to get all his Gaudys and start getting a line of his. But anyways, I picked up that first yellow one because I wanted to do that to honor my dad. So that's, I guess, if you're asking how that's affected my collection, that card.
Well, that's about as good as you can get, you know.
Yeah, he was a good man.
To you know, as a tribute. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about.
I'm going to be honest with you. After I heard this was almost like a mic drop. You know, after this story, I mean, they're going around talking. I mean, the episode was over for me at that point. Nothing against the other guys that were on this video, but I mean, this was the best story I've heard on why somebody is player collecting or collecting a certain card that I've maybe ever heard, let alone this year. And I know I like to be dramatic on this channel and I exaggerate some things and all that, but this is not an exaggeration. I mean, when I look at this, Tony telling his story, mom had breast cancer when he was in the 6th grade. He talks about how, and I can actually really relate to this, how didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, but they didn't know it. And I think that a lot of us can relate to this. You know, I grew up in a very middle-class family. My dad was an officer in the Air Force. My mom was a homemaker. And they were really young, didn't have a lot of money, but I was able to get packs, kind of like what Tony talks about here. I was able to get packs of 89 Pro Set football and 89 Don Russ baseball cards. And I could get a Moon Pie and RC Cola, you know, at the shopette with a pack of cards. And that is a very, very typical story of 80s, early 90s collectors, probably 70s collectors as well. I mean, that is kind of the story as you're growing up and you're collecting cards and you're trying to, you know, you're opening those packs and looking for the stars and maybe a rookie out of there, Greg Jeffries or Mark McGuire or Jose Canseco or whoever it was, if we're talking about the late 80s, Greg Maddux. But I love the way that he explained it because so many of us were in that boat where when you look back, like not a lot of money at all, very middle-class family, but happy though. You know, it's not as if we were like, man, we don't have any money. We didn't know that we didn't have any money. At least I didn't as a kid, and we didn't live like that. There were so many just kind of simple things when I look back at the 80s, simple joys going back to that time. And I love how Tony explains it here. Now, he bought recently a 34 Gaudy Yellow to honor his dad, as he says here, who also got Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS essentially. And he said that he contracted it at 55 years old, the same age that he is now, and he just had a grandson, so he's reflecting on it. I mean, what? It's just, this is like something out of the movies or something. Tony runs a cabinet shop. He makes custom cabinets in Middle Tennessee. That's also the trade that he learned from his dad. His dad did the same thing. The thing that I really love about this story is hit in the face with adversity, man. Like hit in the damn face with adversity. It's full of adversity, this story. Being able to overcome that, live a happy life, and have purpose for a collection or a side part of the collection there with the Lou Gehrig cards. I'm going to go on a little bit of a side tangent here. I have a ton of respect for people that have been, you know, punched in the face with adversity. And they've found a way to overcome it and be successful. That, to me, and I'm just going to talk about living in America, that, to me, that is the American dream. It is getting punched in the face and figuring out a way to get around it. You know, Mike Tyson's famous quote, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And a lot of families go through trials, tribulations. We all have our own story to tell. But man, there's nothing more glorious than overcoming it, you know, beating it. And then continuing on and ascending and then really when we get back to just collecting cards, having real purpose. You know, I think a lot of people are trying to find purpose with their collection, or the purpose evolves over time. You might be player collecting certain things. You might be set collecting certain things. And then it just changes. It changes over time. I think it was actually Mike Baseball Collector. I was watching an interview going back, it was years ago. And I think I have this right, but going back, I don't know, 10, 15 years, he was big into modern cards and Josh Hamilton cards in particular. And of course, Josh Hamilton, an amazing Major League Baseball player right out of the gate. I think he only played 3 or 4 years. He had issues with alcoholism, if I remember that correctly. But this guy was like the next guy. He was an absolute phenom, Josh Hamilton. And then unfortunately, his career kind of got away from him. And that's in part where Mike went to vintage baseball cards. And that started his journey, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago into vintage baseball cards for the most part. But that's an example of how your collecting habits can be one way and they can change. And they could stay like that forever, or maybe they change again. And I really like how, Tony explained here, and he's not just a Lou Gehrig collector. I saw a video where he's got a 52 Topps Mickey Mantle. So I know that he is got other vintage baseball cards and maybe modern cards as well. But I like the story around kind of the side PC, the Lou Gehrig PC there. And of course, I mean, having it being a tribute to his dad, it doesn't get any better than that. You can't draw up better purpose than that. I mean, it makes you emotional just thinking about it. It's incredible. I think this is really the goal of all card collectors or collectibles collectors, finding that purpose, finding that perfect purpose with your collection. That's kind of what we're all striving for. Look, I mean, my God, if you look around, I'm still trapped as a kid in the 80s and the 90s. Clearly, look around. A lot of my collection is just chasing after memories of when I was a kid. And I know that I'm certainly not alone in this. So this was really, really great stuff. This was YouTube gold right here. This is kind of that, when they talk about card collecting stories, and man, is there a riveting story behind this or that? And it's tough, because someone might explain why they collect certain things. And if it's tough to relate to the person, and then you've also got to relate to the story. I was just listening to this guy, this 4 minutes, man, this was everything. I thought this was fantastic. Watching this, it was really relatable. And that 4 minutes, I was like, damn, if I'm at a national and they've got one of these meetups again, I hope that I can run into Tony and grab a drink with him. So tell me your story in the comments, anything that you would like to share. I've gotten some feedback on this going back about a week. Stukes, I saw your comment yesterday. I know he's looking for more of this type of content. We're going to talk about the nostalgia more and the stories behind people and kind of the why behind why are people collecting certain things. As opposed to just Lou Gehrig was a great baseball player. Holy cow, like Tony basically took us like 3 levels deeper. And that's the stuff, man. That is the damn stuff. Let me know your story. Stay healthy. Stay awesome. I'll talk to you again later.